How often do you see a movie that garners a good public reaction and critical acclaim and does a really good business and doesn't try to make a sequel to it? Bollywood, for instance, is filled with these kinds of films. A lot actually, where the sequels, when looked at all together, do not feel cohesive at all, other than the name of the original movie they share. Horror films generally do this a lot, like when the supernatural power is finally defeated after some gruesome attempts, they plant a seed for the next film with some another supernatural activity at the end of the movie. Nowadays, sequels are mostly made just to juice out some extra money from the fans of already famous movie, rather than being a genuine plausible continuation of a story and character arcs. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about the movies with great sequels like the Batman trilogy or the Gangs of Wasseypur, for instance. You need to know that these sequels were not made because the first movie became a hit. Christopher Nolan had already envisioned a three-part story of his vision of Batman long before The Batman Begins was even released. Gangs of Wasseypur, on the other hand, was actually intended to be a single 5.5 hour movie, but they decided that a 5-hour movie in a theatre was not a feasible option, so they split it in two parts. Amidst all these uninteresting and lame sequels came Drishyam 2, and all my negative preconceived notions of sequels shattered and came to an end. Before getting into what makes Drishyam 2 a brilliant sequel, I will go into some of the details and explain why most of the sequels fail to bring the same amount of quality as their predecessors. One of the main reasons why most of the sequels feel bland and not up to the mark is because they fail to exist as a good standalone movie. A sequel should also be a good movie on its own, and the characters we love should be means of elevating that experience of a good film even more. Let us again take the example of the Batman trilogy. If you pick any of the three movies, they are damn good movies on their own. So even if you were to watch The Dark Knight Rises without watching the previous two, you would still enjoy it, and the fact that it is a continuation of the two movies elevates the experience of an already great film because you are able to witness the journey of Bruce Wayne and how the character changes in the course of three films. But what most of the bad sequels do is put the characters we love in a really unexciting story. Drishyam 2, in my opinion, is a perfect example of how a sequel should be made. There are two things which make this movie great. First, let's start with the plot points this movie starts with. Rani's anxiety and need for closure, loss of public support, Joseph witnessing George Kutti burying the body in police station, George Kutti's confidence which Rani sees as his overconfidence. These plot points, which form the base for the movie, do not feel far-fetched or stretched unnecessarily at all. Like Rani and the family feeling anxiety and living in constant fear of getting caught is something they can never escape even after committing a perfect crime. Someone witnessing George Kutti burying the body was also possible. The confidence George Kutti has, which Rani sees as his overconfidence in the beginning of the movie, is also probable for someone who has escaped from the police for nearly 7 years. Though this is later revealed to us, it is because of his future planning. And the tricking audience into believing the script which George Kutti is working on is also his lifelong dream, like his dream to own a movie theatre which was shown in his first film. These points create an organic continuation from the previous film and set the narrative for this one and then converge into a fantastic climax. And the second reason being the climax of the movie. The plan George Kutti makes this time is no doubt on par with the previous one, but what really captivated me was the situation George Kutti was caught in. Even after evading the police, he is caught in the never-ending cycle of suffering, guilt, and in constant need to plan his next move. And that poses a really important question to us. Can you ever truly escape a crime? Drishyam 2 successfully avoids falling into the trap of repeating itself like the first movie and instead captures its essence, that is, George Kutty trying to save his family at any cost. And that's what made the first movie great. The fact that the sequel was not planned while making the first film and is something the writer-director Jitu Joseph came up in recent years reflects on the immense potential this man has, and I'm really excited for his next work, which may be Drishyam 3. Thank you guys for watching the video.